Okay, so some people couldn't make it to the live, and that's okay because you're going to get this replay. So welcome to Astrology Part 3. I hope that you were able to connect with the exercises that I put together and learn a little bit about the energies. Of course, what I've put together was quite simple, but behind it all is a whole world that represent, each one of those signs. So I'm going to get into astrology a little further and hopefully get you to a point where you're going to have some more homework until we meet again. So memorizing the zodiac is good, right? If you can name all 12 zodiacs, then you've got that. So practice the zodiacs. However, it's very difficult to remember the dates, like, when the cusps are. I always know 20th, 21st, around there is usually where it happens. And you also got to take a look at the astrology chart as a circle and divide it into the pie. So now I bet the chart is getting a little more realistic to you. And then the rising signs. So where do we want to go from here? We went into the houses and the personal values and all of the meanings of the different houses. So before we begin, let's take a look at today. So what does it say for today? So May 14th, and I'm going to share with you how to find where this information is every day. So May 14th, it's a waxing moon, and it is a moon in Scorpio at 51 degrees. So the moon in Scorpio creates a need to delve into your feelings as deep as possible. And you desire meaningful emotional exchanges now more than at any other time, even if it's not easy. And you're forced to change many things. Shallow relationships do not satisfy you because they are not purifying enough. The influence, because it is a Scorpio, organs influenced are the genitals, the whole root chakra area, the glands, the ovaries, the butt, the everything. So the whole root chakra area. And that is the energy of today. So kind of think about your day because we're at the end of it. And see if there is any of that in there. And if not, it doesn't matter. But if it does, then you know that there's influences. So our organs are influenced by the moon. So I always like to know what moon sign it is that is being influenced by the moon, because you know what's going to happen to your body. So I want to go into that before I move forward. So write this down. Well, you don't have to. You have the audio. Okay, so I'm going to start with Taurus. So the Taurus moon sign influences the neck and our vocal cords, as well as the throat and the thyroid gland. So throat chakra. Gemini is the shoulders and the arms and the hands, as well as our lungs. So heart chakra. Cancer is the stomach and the breast. So the breasts are part of it, the stomach and the mucosa is what it's called. And the womb and the ovaries. Those are all Cancer. Leo is the heart, our blood pressure, and our blood circulation, as well as the, what is that major artery? Aorta. So Leo energies. And you know, what's also good about this, I should mention, is when these signs are in power, and these are the body things that are influenced, it's also the time where we can heal them. So maybe it's like, oh my gosh, my blood pressure you might realize your blood pressure changes when Leo is in power, right? Well, you can also do healing that day, whatever healing it is that you want to do. So blood circulation is Leo. Like, think about the lion, right? It makes sense because that does represent our shadow selves as well, right? And our sense of protection is all connected to our blood. Virgo is the pancreas, the small intestine, and the digestive tract. And there is more to it. So with Virgo, there is the sense organs of the eyes and the ears. Libra is the kidney. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Sometimes at the end of the day when I'm worn out, or the morning when I'm like, my kidneys, they need water. So it's the kidneys, the urinary tract, the ureter, the bladder, the veins, and the skin. So skin healing is good. Let me see. And the other thing that I should mention about Libra, which I find quite interesting, is that it's also not just skin, but the organ of touch, as well as insulin. So your body's natural insulin. And I'm type 2 and a Libra. So obviously I'm still healing. So Sagittarius, I think we're at, is the liver, the hips, the thighs. So solar plexus and down, or belly button down is actually. And as well as ovaries. And that's quite important because the ovaries are actually go into power with many different moon signs, right? Because you got to think about the, ovulation is connected to the power of the moon. So if people are having difficulty with pregnancy, Scorpio sign, when it's in power, can help that, build strength in that for fertility. So that was Sagittarius or Scorpio. That's what we did today. That's today too. Was I at Sagittarius? I lost myself. Yeah. Did I do Sagittarius? Lips? Yeah, I had liver, hit lips. Okay, liver, liver, lips. That'd be disgusting. Don't come at me with those liver lips. I'm Sorry. Okay. Capricorn is backbone. Your backbone, your joints. So even my elbows were affected today. Joints, knees, skin, and hair. So back. You know, I never really noticed my back in December. I wonder if it is different than other months. I'm gonna have to pay attention to it this year. Aquarius are our calves, our ankles, and our shins. Is there anything else with the Capricorn? Oh yes, Capricorn is the organ of balance. So anything that has to do with our organs, our skin, well, we are an organ. So it is good for balancing our body. Aquarius is the calf, the ankle, as well as the forearm muscles. I believe, okay, Pisces, feet and toes, and the pineal gland. So our feet and toes are connected to what? Our third eye? That's weird. The other thing is, it's Pisces sign does affect our endorphin and melatonin. Levels are natural levels. I did Gemini, I believe. Shoulders, arms, hands. Gemini, shoulders, arms. Oh yeah, I did that. But do you have sensor and motor skills for Gemini? Put that down. Sorry, sometimes. Okay, Taurus, what was that? Let me see. That was today. Yep. Neck, vocal cords is Taurus. That's not today. Today is Sagittarius. So when you think about the power of Sagittarius in our body, right? Our root chakra is being affected, and our emotions. Oh, Scorpio, I didn't do. Sorry. Oh yes, Scorpio. See, you already know those 12 signs. Look at you. So Scorpio is our genitals, crown chakra, our ovaries, as well as our genes. So we can actually influence our DNA when under the Scorpio moon. And it's interesting because you can actually create healing circles that do have to do with the astrology of the body, right? Pisces, Aries, we did, right? Do you have Aries? I'm sure we did Aries. I feel so unorganized. Why? Head, teeth, and tongue for Aries. So bad tooth problems, Aries is the time to heal the mouth and the tongue and any irritated muscles, actually. as well as gallbladders. So Aries is connected to the gallbladder. I love that. Okay, so now I got to find out where we left off last week. So I know that we were getting into the comets and the planets, and I do want to get a little bit more into the planets because I find that they are the first building block. So once we recognize, oh, this planet is in power, we can utilize it for the energies and the influences as well as the healing, but also positively and negatively we're affected, right? So maybe our kidneys are sore with Leo, but we have to, so that means you need to heal it. You need to have that healing power. So what you'll find is, where should I start? So let's start with the sun, okay? And the sun is so important. 30, or what is it? 20 minutes in the sun, and you have produced vitamin D. That's why the sun, is it 20 minutes?
Yep, with your arms and face.
But your face and your arms have to touch the sun, and you actually produce vitamin D. I love that. We produce vitamins. So the sun is something that's so important every day. And, the ancient ones always believed that when they came out of sleep, this was the purpose, right? So they believed that they entered into the human world and they entered the spirit world. They didn't believe that we just lived on Mother Earth or Middle Earth and Mother Earth. The ancient ones believed that we lived two different lives, right? The life of life and the life of spirit. Kind of like, yeah. So the sun is super important because it actually is, look at it as the director, okay? And it's the director who's making the final decisions of all of the other influences that are influencing your true self. So the sun's energy is meant to hit us at our core, center us, and give us our true self. So the sun power, everyone says the moon power is so magical. Well, the sun power turns us into being, how we live each day, who we are in the daytime. That's the motivator of our magic, right? You can't live your life totally bitchy and, a cunt, pardon my language, to everyone. And then all of a sudden, go to the full moon ceremony and be all, I'm a healer. You can't do that. It doesn't work, right? So the sun is so important in who we are becoming in our life. And so it is the executive director of our game of life or our play or our story. And it's because it activates our true self. And our true self is activated by who we are in the daytime. Pretty interesting. When I learned that, I was like, oops, I was so bad. Oh, yep. I was not a people person at all in my past. So, but the daytime and our experiences create our true self, the good and the bad and the neutral and all of it, right? All of our consciousness is coming alive and it's trying to seek for that life that the true self wants. And even though each of the planets in our chart is important, they all take the orders from the sun and how we live our day. And so everyone's sun has the same inner goal. Everybody's sun, to shine, to bring our spirit alive. Like, I believe that we are divine beings that are, when we're awake in our daily life, we're meant to get what it is that we want out of it for the day. And it's like, should be way more than this experience, part of me, but I think we should all be like royalty and in togas and little flashes of lightning. Like that would be my perfect world. Did I miss Scorpio? No, I did that. Ugh. Okay. So, so that's what the sun does. And so the sun shows you where you really want to go. It shows us really what we want to do. And it's meant to guide us to the goods. So if we're not in that place where we're like in the goods, we're automatically should be in a healing state and focused on our healing. And that healing is, of course, not just body, mind, and spirit, but whatever it is that is not in our place. So I love the sun. And when I believe when it's a sunshine, you have to enjoy the beauty of it. And you'll even notice, and I know a lot of you are in the tarot, that if you look at the tarot cards, the sunshine is where the sun is, right? It's the consciousness. So we activate our tomorrows. And the simplest way I live is I just make sure tomorrow will be better than today. I don't care about a week ago. I take mine, even though I have my future goals, I just try to make today better than yesterday. And if yesterday was good and you just added one little thing, yeah. So that's how I focus on my life. I try to make each day better than yesterday. And so the sun wants us to do good, and it wants us to be appreciated and loved. And our inner sun is our supply. So whatever light that we draw in and whatever we activate within ourselves is our inner supply of pride and confidence, and it is our identity. So if someone doesn't have their confidence, are they getting enough sunshine? You know, kick that kid outside for an hour and see how they change. They will lighten up, right? So the sun wants us to have the best life. It wants us to be a place of fulfillment. And that's what the daytime life is about, creating that confidence, our identity, and creating our best fulfilling life. And the sun shows how to focus in the moment, in the day, you know, where all of the world's intentions are active and they're all directed. Like think about the chaos of energy, but also the natural formation within it. Like it is amazing. And it branches. So the sun actually creates on a sunny day electrical energy, and it branches. It has no timing to it, but it can bring us the power of prediction. And the power of prediction represents the day, the moon, the hour, and whatever the moment is, whether it is the midheaven moment or the physical's body. So we can put all of these pieces together, but the sun is the power. Let's go into the symbol for the sun. I mean, it's on your sheets, but the circle and the dot in the middle. And you know, something that I found very interesting about that is that symbol with the circle and the dot is thousands of years old. Thank you. And I found that it was the ancient African symbol for the sun. It is a Native American ancient symbol for the sun. So all over the world, thousands of years ago, when there was, you know, whatever going on, many different cultures used the circle with the dot inside as the sun. I love that. That was not a good circle. But either way, let's go to the moon. So the moon energy, the magic, the hidden stuff. So we have the sun's influence And then we have the moon's influence. So the moon is a good place to begin to understand qualities. And these qualities are influenced by water. So the clearer the night, the more powerful the water and atmosphere becomes. The denser and the foggier, the less. So when we are looking up at that beautiful moon, or we see it shimmering in the water, that's when we want to just take a deep breath and breathe in the power. Just looking at it and breathing it in will bring the influence into your being. And she represents the moon. She represents the hour. She represents our interior, but it's the softer, the quieter part of our interior, not the beast. And she recalls our memories. So whenever we have flashes of the past pop in, moon power is in place. And she also represents our fears and dreams. So many people don't know this, but if you have fear, that is the urge and the magic of the moon trying to break through it. So I always pay attention to the fears because they don't exist. But when they do come into our mind, I know that there is power there and purpose. I love it. And I know I need to break the boundary because that's the boundary. Fear is a boundary. It's a new level. You're breaking through. It's that, I don't know what people play video games. There's that final level. That's our fear and our dreams. So she is the moon is the energy who oversees our department of feelings. She's the bringer of our moods. So you could actually take a look at what mood you are mostly in and see where that fits. What sign is your moon activated by? You might be a Libra, but maybe that your mood is being influenced by Virgo power. Oh, well, maybe you have a husband that's a Virgo. So all of a sudden his influence is stronger than your own. So it's very interesting to know how you are feeling and where it represents and connects to the power of the zodiac, because you might find, oh, it's planetary. Oh, it's my son. Oh, it's my, best friend. Oh, it's my boss. And you could actually see who is overpowering your life. So for example, for today's energy, right? Going into tomorrow, it's Sagittarius. So what is that mood? Where's the Sagittarius energy influencing you? So the moon represents our moods. The great moon word actually represents mood. That's what it meant. And the moon's house and placement in your chart reveals how your intuition works. How interesting is that? Now, you guys got to go back to your charts, right? And take a look at that. Read your chart and see. So the house and the placement in your chart reveals how your intuition works, including your psychic pathways. and what your emotional needs are. There's the power of your fulfillment. It's not somebody else. It's what's in your chart, right? And those needs are, it will also tell you not just what those emotional needs are that you need, but how you want your needs to be met. The moon tells us. And she is also our ultimate female energy, the part of us that points to both how we are nurtured, but also how we nurture. And that is the power of the full moon. How we nurture and how we get nurtured. How we nurture others, how we nurture our body. And in the body, the moon has a jurisdiction over our breasts, our womb, and our ovaries, as well as our fluid. So she rules over our body fluids, as well as the internal ocean that keeps us alive. I know it's not like magic, but I have to say, like, ocean to me, I live right on the ocean, but ocean to me is like a god. Okay, like I can look at the ocean and I know how the energy and what influences are coming through just by looking at the color, looking at the sky, looking at everything. The ocean to me is like the ultimate. It saved my life so many different times by bringing me guidance at the ocean. And I'm an air person. So isn't that interesting about the moon? Put down if you like that. Do you like how the moon is your mood? I love it. And that's why every full moon ceremony has a different influence. So when you learn about the powers of the 13 moons, you can walk such an amazing cycle. Yeah, it does make sense. It's amazing. I love that. So Mercury, let's go into Mercury. Mercury retrograde. We're going to get into that too. So the Mercury, so think back when the gods and the goddesses were thought to be in charge of all of the affairs of mankind. Okay. Mercury shuttled messages between the gods and humans. So Mercury is a messenger. Mercury gives us messages. In today's world, computers would be known as a power of Mercury because we can find out anything. It's like, my mom actually believed the cloud was God. I'm like, Mom, it's like a technical thing. She's like, no, that cloud thing, it's God. It knows everything. And it made me think. And I could see her point. And that's why I say, like, Mercury is the computer. It's the telephone, right? It's the internet. It's the internal computer that constantly feeds us information about the world. And so the position of Mercury and the house in the chart will tell us how we reason, how we think, and how we express ourselves to others. And so you could say, while you're interpreting a chart, the Mercury in your house represents, this is how you think, right? So you can create something off of that. So it's how you express yourself to others And you'll also recognize it in your speech patterns. So how we communicate. And some people are like me and just roll up, and other people are like zip. And that is Mercury power. It also represents our handwriting and how we walk. The actual movement of our walk, some people have that bounce. I walk straight, no bounce for me. I learned how to walk with a phone book on my head. I had to walk without bouncing. It was etiquette school. Modeling. I had to learn how to walk like a lady without and I still walk like that. It's weird. So I got influenced. My Mercury got influenced with how I walk. And also how we move through our environment. So how we move at work compared to how we move at home. I mean, think about the different beings that we are, right? We're different people to each person that knows us, right? No, whether it's our self-created or their perception, we are. And so it also communicates and operates through our 5 senses. And all 5 senses are connected to our psychic powers. So when Mercury goes into retrograde, all of our psychic powers go bleh. They'll go into an opposition, right? So Mercury operates through our 5 senses and our brain, and it makes us conscious of opposites. So the Mercury is always looking for the opposite or the problem, okay? Our light and our dark. It's our cold and our hot. It's our up and our down. And it's what we use when we have a conversation or when we look at another person. So when we look, Mercury creates the perception. And after it, let me see. So yeah, it can interpret symbols. When we look at magical symbols, Mercury interprets that power. So Mercury is pretty interesting because it represents that side of us that is living totally in the present. So Mercury is present moment. Venus. Venus is one of my favorite. I'm Libra, Venus, and that is one of my connections. And I love Venus because she was actually created by the foams of the ocean. So I have an ocean connection, can really connect to that goddess. So I use her in my magic quite a bit. So Venus is the one that spends her energy supplying us with our favorite people, our favorite places, and all of our favorite things, like chocolate. It is. Venus is what I like: chocolate, music, silky, what are those satin pillows? Oh yeah, that's Venus. So Venus represents everything that we like. And it also represents that power that is activated when we get a crush or when we get that little spark. So Venus tells us how to get what we want. And you know what I love about Venus is, did you know that Lucifer was actually Venus? The morning star. The morning star is Venus. And Venus, or the morning star, is known as Lucifer. And it's because the Venus rises with the morning, or the Venus is the morning star, right? Rises with the sun, but also sets with the moon. So we get Venus with the sun and the moon. So our desires are 24/7. Okay. And Venus tells us how to get what we want. Venus enjoys beauty and comfort, and she shows us how to attract what we love, even people. So when we are trying to be charming, whether we're using our manners or we're in charge of our behavior to please others, to get what you want, the power of Venus. Venus is also that one that gets you drawn to the social chit chat. It wants the smiles, the hugs. It wants to be pleased and satisfied. And Venus is who is the one that makes us feel the way we do. Now, even though this is a magic, but Venus's symbol is the dollar sign. And so since money is one of the ways that we can draw objects that we love to us, she is in charge of all our finances. And she relates to our senses. Our sight, our smell, our taste, our touch, and our sound. Same with Mercury. So both those planets influence our psychic channels. But she is in charge of our body's receptors. So when you get that feeling, when someone gives you a feeling, that's Venus. That's why you want to honor your feelings. And she senses what feels good and what doesn't. And she responds to our desire for beautiful surroundings and comfortable clothing and fine art and all the things that we want in our life. I love Venus. So Venus, when Venus is in power, that's when you want to go on a date if you're single. And you will really be clear on what the goddess or the planet Venus feels about the person you're on a date with. You'll get her interpretation. Let's go to Mars. So Mars, remember, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So we might as well go into Mars next. So Mars is in charge of our self-defense. And it's our action department. So Mars is the warrior who fights back when we're attacked. And it's our own personal SWAT team. So our warrior spirit. And it's the Mars energy, our Mars energy, that makes us brave and gives us our courage. And when you look at Mars in your chart, it describes how you act on your own behalf. Mars is only concerned with you, nobody else. And he doesn't consider size, strength, abilities of whoever you're up against. He doesn't care, because he's the side of you that initiates it all for you. So he is your fighter. Mars is your fighter. He's also in charge of how you assert yourself and how you express your anger. So, I mean, like, my Mars is like the biggest, hairiest beast you'd ever see. So he is our hot under the collar, that beast that wants to rise. When we're seeing red, when we get fired up, that's our Mars. And Mars is what we actually use to be passionate and adventurous and bold. But Mars is also the violent type. It's actually very accident prone. Okay, so when all of a sudden, your energy's not right and weird shit starts to happen, that happens. If my energy is not right, chaos. Okay, it's so bad. It's like I have to be a certain way where chaos hits. But yeah, it is the one. So we do want to have our self-defense mode in a place where we honor the spirit and we accept that it is okay when we need to fight back. And that happens every day. Mars is in power. And it is the part that can make people violent. It's the accident prone one, or when there's cruel energy. So whenever there's those energies in play, you have chaos in play, we can actually do magic with Mars. Carve a candle with a Mars symbol and light it up during the power of Mars, the hour of Mars, which we're going to get into too. So he's in charge through the situations that we need to be headstrong. And he corresponds to our head, our blood, and our muscles. So Mars is our warrior. And some of you might say, I wasn't born with a Mars sign in my chart. It's like, look where your Mars is and see what house is your fight. Jupiter is known as the great benefic, and his department is all about abundance and growth. So you'll see money candles will have the Jupiter sign on it. And he is a side of us that's positive, it's optimistic, wants to give and help your family, and is the generous part of you. And he's where we keep our supply of laughter. So he is our happiness, our enthusiasm, and our high spirits. And so if that is missing, or if that is lacking, what house is the Jupiter in? Right? Because some signs, they might not get that energy, or maybe something traumatized happened, right? So our laughter, our enthusiasm, our high spirits, our money is all in the same house. And that's why your currency, your health, and your wealth are connected. So his energy is about expansiveness. It is about the future. It's about the high spirit energy that motivates us to travel. Jupiter motivates you to take classes. Oh yeah. Jupiter said, take the astrology class. Right? Jupiter is the one that wants you to meet new people. And wherever you look and you see Jupiter where it's placed in your chart, then you'll see your network of friends. What other signs are in that house? Because those are the people that are most compatible. So in the charts, always look Jupiter and the other signs around it. And you'll be like, oh, you're compatible with this, this, and this. I love it. You can actually predict relationships by where the Jupiter is and what signs are around it. So Jupiter wants us to meet friends, wants us to meet associates, people that we can visit, people that we can count on, people that we can learn from. And Jupiter is the side of us that causes us to experience, that grass is greener on the other side syndrome. Jupiter wants us to always look for more. It wants us to go for more. So Jupiter is the energy that we are using when we find ourselves, if we're being excessive, too excessive, or wasteful, or if we're overdoing things, or we're blowing something out of proportion. Words like to and always are the property of Jupiter. So you can actually do writing using always and more. So the words always and more bring Jupiter into power, and better are words of power for Jupiter. And Jupiter just loves to make things happen. They want things bigger and better. So in our body, Jupiter corresponds with the liver. And the liver is the organ that filters what we take in. And it gets rid of what is excess. And so Jupiter represents our physical growth and healing. So if you look at the Jupiter symbol, the curved, I always say it's like the 2 and the 4. It's like a 2 and a 4. And if you just put that on your water, right? Intentionally just put it on your glass with your finger 3 times before you drink it, you're activating a healing power. I want you to do that until we meet again. You have your glass of water, put the Jupiter symbol exactly how I'm doing it. Just draw it. You don't even have to know what it means. And then drink it. And see how it helps heal you. Let's go to Saturn. So Saturn. Yeah, that's what I want, Saturn. So Saturn represents withholding and resistance. So you can actually find out what a person is resisting. And it's natural. They're born with that resistance. Maybe that resistance is somebody's sign. And you're like, I just don't click. And you're like, oh my God, that's in my sign. That's in my house. That's totally why I don't click. I love it because it just makes so much sense when you really take a look at all of these things. So Saturn is withholding and resistance to change. That's what you have to beat and block. It represents our boundaries and our rules department. So when you take a look at Saturn in your chart, you want to find out where you built up walls that keep change out. Where you may find that you're blocking yourself at times. And Saturn is also the authority inside of us. It's the one that wants us to break through what we fear. So it represents breaking through fear and failure. And so whenever we act out of line with ourselves, you know, that feeling, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. That's the Saturn. Or if someone flips you the bird and you feel it all day, that's Saturn. So it's activated. So anything that is inappropriate, even our failures or the things. But Saturn teaches us to respect people, especially our elders. And Saturn is about following the rules. So our personal morals and rules are what is clustered around where our Saturn is. And that's why everybody's morals are different. And Saturn also is the one that wants us to create our facts until we know we're ready. So Saturn's the one that will be like, you're not ready yet, and you'll get those nerves, or you'll be ready and you have that go and that drive and you break through it. It's also where unexpected things can happen. So when, you know, those unexpected influences, when you look at your Saturn in your chart, the influences of patience and endurance and responsibility and unexpected things are all in that house. And this planet is so fond of boundaries that it's also in charge of our organization skills. And in the physical body, Saturn correlates to our bones and skin. All of the structures that hold our body together. We're going to go into Uranus. I mean, like, why do they have to name it that? So then Uranus, there's a spot in everybody's chart where independence is the order of the day, and where it rules what we are specifically made to be broken, and to where our personal freedom is activated. So Uranus represents our personal freedom. And it also represents the department that one never knows. So the unknown. So when you take a look at Uranus in your chart, it's all of the shocks and surprises. So you can look at that house and you'll be able to understand what shocks and surprises and sudden reversals were destined in your life. And our Uranus energy is what makes us and wakes us up to how we feel, especially when we break out of our ruts. So it sets us free from our ruts, and it is our own wizard that is involved with the communication of our body, mind, and spirit. So it is our own personal wizard computer. And it's also where we are strong. So Uranus represents our strength in our chart, but also where you will be strong too. So this is where you'll have to use your potential and your genius power, where we're bold enough to ignore the old way and solve the problems of our house. So within the house of Uranus, all of those unexpected things that we can expect because it's in our house, right? Those things can represent, we can find our breakthroughs. That's where we can change our destiny. We can break the problem and create a whole new way. So it's pretty scientific because that is the house of breakthroughs. And it is inspired through us, through our lower part of our legs. And our lower part of our legs, our calves and our ankles, were actually are, I don't want to say were, I was going to say something else, but it like came, I got were, and then it disappeared. So I'm going to move on. So the part of our legs, including our calves and our ankles, represents and works with our central nervous system. And so the ancient ones believed that how we carried ourselves how we walked in our world was inspired by Uranus and created the breakthroughs that we needed. Neptune is next. And the next time you feel yourself go like this, the next time you sigh or you feel yourself slip into a daydream, that's Neptune's energy. And Neptune is in charge of romance, nostalgia, and magic. And although Neptune's official title is the head of the Department of Avoidance and Fantasy, yeah, those are housed. That's what Neptune is, avoidance and fantasy. So a it's almost like a Polarian type of energy. It also represents the most creative energies as well because of those two. And so Neptune is the creative energy that we create on our own. It's our own personal essence. So wherever Neptune is on your chart, that's where you're psychic. And it's also where you're capable of amazing sensitivity, but also the power of communication with others. So using your psychic skill to speak. And it's also the house that lets us know how we connect to the less fortunate. So people who are less fortunate than you. And it's also the energy that helps us where we're drawn to charity and helping, because we realize that we're all part of the bigger plan. So we can actually find out what is our psychic magical power? What is the plan that our essence holds? Who are we? Magically, we can look at Neptune for that, because Neptune is part of the bigger plan, and there's no boundaries between us and what is out there. So whatever is around Neptune is a combination of our sensitivity, our reality, as well as our magic, and we can mix them all together. And so this is the place where we can find out where we'll try to escape. It represents our sleep, our meditation, and our prayers, and how we use these higher energies. I know it's a lot to try to write down, so you might have to re-listen, okay? And you'll get a little workbook as well. So Neptune's energies represent the place in our chart where we're equally capable of fooling other people. And we're able to also use that ability. And it was used to fool others to get what they want. So Neptune tells you, what is your special connection? In the old days, people used the energy of Neptune and the house to find the connection to poisons and viruses that would invisibly affect our body. And it represents our body's immune system. So how do we keep out barriers? Or how we keep out the things like our barriers? Pretty interesting on that, hey? So we can actually see how powerful our immune system is by what is around Neptune, or what house Neptune is in. So Pluto is our head of death, destruction, and decay. Department of Death, Destruction, Decay. And Pluto is in charge of things that have to happen. And it disposes of situations that have gone past the point of no return. So Pluto is where we can see what we are meant to let go of, including people, right? So take a look at the signs that are in the house where Pluto is. And so the power of letting go is Pluto, and it also oversees sex, reincarnation, recycling, regeneration, and rejuvenation. So say you have a grandchild sign in your Pluto, connected to your Pluto, or wherever the Pluto's house is, right? You can find out if a family member is reincarnated. So reincarnation represents what signs are connected to your Pluto, because there is the past life connections. So Pluto can be very intense. It represents the circumstances that teach us about agony as well as ecstasy. So when we look at Pluto in our chart, that is our state of turmoil or evolution. And I said or. So take a look at it. So you can find out what is destined as far as your own personal turmoil or the turmoil of others or their evolution, and what will be going on to change it. So this is a side of us that realizes that whether we like it or not, life goes off or life goes on after tremendous loss. And it's the side of us that will make us reflect on our losses down the road, so we can actually predict it, as well as try to make sense of them. And most importantly, Pluto rules life and death and rebirth. So if we need to do healing because of an accident or something like that, we can use the symbol of Pluto and to call in the healing power of life or rebirth, or to ease someone if they're crossing over. Pluto is where we will understand the importance of the life, death, and rebirth process. And it's actually where we can become amazingly strong if we can use this transforming energy and see where the power of transformation is that we can tap into. So in the body, Pluto is associated with our reproductive systems, as well as the invisible process of life and death. So Pluto's in charge of our maturity. So those are the planets. And the first building block that you can do when you're putting people's reports together or interpreting them. So let's go into the second building block. So the first thing is the planets in the chart. Now we want to go into the second building block of the signs. So every sign is built of three things. They are masculine and feminine. Just a minute. Blech. Yes, the polarities. Okay. Okay. So the second building block, every sign is built of three things: an element, a quality, and a polarity. And each of these, and understanding each of these, will give us a head start toward understanding the signs themselves as we're taking a look at them. So the polarities of the masculine and the feminine, the words masculine and feminine are often misunderstood or confused, especially when it comes to the context of astrology. In astrology, masculine means that an energy is assertive, aggressive, linear. Where the feminine means that the energy is receptive. It's magnetic and it's circular. So we want to think of the circular, the magnetic, receptive in the female. The masculine is assertive, aggressive, and linear. And the qualities that we want to take a look at, the second building block of our charts, represents the way the sign's energy flows. And you'll see in the charts or in reports, it will say cardinal, fixed, or mutable. So cardinal, fixed, or mutable show the way of the sign's energy flows. The cardinal signs are the energies that initiate change. So cardinal signs operate in sudden bursts of energy. The fixed signs are thorough and unstoppable. They're the energies that endure. So they take projects to completion. And sometimes they'll block change. So they'll block change at all costs and will also keep something regardless of whether or not it should be terminated. And the mutable signs are flexible. They're changeable. But they can be scattered or they can be like inconsistent. And then we have the elements. So the elements are fire, earth, air, and water. And the fire signs correspond with the spirit and the spiritual aspects of life. Fire inspires action, attraction, attention, and love, spontaneity. The earth sign is the solid, practical, supportive stability. And it is as reliable as the earth under our feet. The earth sign is our physical energy and is concerned with all of our tangible needs. Our food, our shelter, our work, our responsibilities. Air signs are all about the intellectual or mental sides of life. Like air itself, it's light, but everywhere. And air loves conversation. So it's communication and mingling. Where the water sign corresponds to our emotional side. It's changeable and subtle. and it filters. So water signs gauge the mood in the room. That's what we feel when we enter. And it's like, oh, I like this place, or oh, I need to get out of here. That's our water element in our sign. And it operates on what it senses from the environment. So think about that. Our emotions are a full connection to how we sense the energy from our environments. And that's why I would say, if you don't feel good, smudge that place. I don't care if you have to smudge it twice a day, do it. So let's go into, now we did a lot on the signs. We did the Aries. So when you see in the signs or in the charts, Aries, masculine, cardinal, fire, now you know what that means. So for example, Aries is ruled by Mars, and it is cardinal fire. So hot, impulsive, ready to go. And Aries planets are not known for patience. They ignore obstacles. And they choose to focus on the shortest distance between where they are and where they want to be. So planets in Aries are brave, and they're direct. And they are often very good at initiating projects. But they are not, however, eager to finish them. Okay, so they'll leave their projects undone for like the last minute or not finish them, or they'll leave their projects undone, but they also need physical outlets. So they have to be powered by energy. So anything that will give them power, otherwise their need for action will turn into stress. So their main energy has to do with exercise, hard work, competition, and food. Yeah, I think they're the ones that can just eat anything, and their health is, they got that burning, strong immune system. Taurus, I'm going to go into it quickly. So Taurus is feminine, it's fixed, and the element of earth. Taurus is fixed and is an earth sign, which represents endless patience that turns the Taurus planet into a solid force to be reckoned with. And Taurus folks never quit. They're stubborn. And their reputation is that they are stubborn and they earned it. Like, they're good at pushing through. They're responsible, they're reliable, they're honest, and they're practical. And they stick to it. So a lot of other planets can envy their focus. And they're not afraid to work hard. Since Taurus is ruled by Venus, it's not surprising to find that these people are sensual, they like luxury, and they're loving. But they love to be spoiled with the best. They like good food, fine wine, even anything beautiful, or travel. They need also quiet and peace, and they don't like schedules to be disrupted. So be on time. Oh, you're Taurus? I'll be there 15 minutes early. And they do need to be reminded that comfortable habits can become ruts. Okay, so they do have to be reminded that, they do need to change things once things become stagnant. So Geminis are masculine, mutable, and air. And this is a sign that is famous for duality and love of new experiences. So Gemini is the communicator. Mutable air, which means changing their mind. So Gemini's planet is meant to be entertaining, but versatile. And this sign knows a little bit about everything. So Gemini planets usually display two distinct sides. Their personalities are changeable and they can be fickle at times, but their sign is ruled by Mercury. So if what you're doing involves talking or writing or gestures, then it's good because they like to work with hand-eye coordination. And Mercury also rules short trips. So traveling or sales, like work with little short trips would be good. But they like to get things done quickly. So Cancer is feminine, cardinal, and water. So Cancer is cardinal water. That means it's good at the beginning when things are happening. It's also the most private sign. So Cancer types are emotionally vulnerable, they're sensitive, and they're easily hurt. But they need to feel safe. And they like their safety nets or their home. And they like to return to it when the world gets to be too much. So Cancer types say, I love you, by tending to your need for food or warmth or a place to sleep. They're homey. And the problem is that they can become needy or dependent or unable to even function unless they feel someone or something needs them. So Cancer rules the home and family, but it's also in charge of emotions. And so we can usually expect a Cancer to operate from their gut feeling most of the time. So if you guys are, if I've hit you, put it on there. Even though I've done your charts, I don't remember it. Leo is masculine, fixed, and fire. So Leo is all of the above, right? Masculine, fixed, fire, and it represents pride and ego. Sun is ruled by Leo and wants to shine and be noticed. So Leo is our natural performers, and people in this sign are also into drama and they attract attention, even if they don't want it. And occasionally, Leo may find themselves to be too touchy or too high maintenance, but they're still generous, even if that happens. And Leos appreciate attention, and they like to be praised with compliments or gifts or creative outings. And they're also designed to amaze and delight. Leo specialties are having fun, entertaining, and making big entrances and exits. So you want to take a look, where is the Leo in your chart? What house? Virgo is feminine, mutable earth. And Virgo may seem picky and critical, but they may be too simplistic. Because they're a mutable earth sign, Virgo planet delights in helping and is willing to adapt to any task. and they have a keen eye for detail. And their details may be another way to interpret a Virgo's automatic fault-finding ability. And when Virgo's eye for detail combines with the ability to fix almost anything, you have a troubleshooter that can do anything. So they have superpowers. And this sign practices discrimination. They're analyzing, they're critiquing, and they're suggesting remedies to potential problems. This sign is also wonderful at making lists, agendas, and schedules, but also it's important to keep Virgos happy by keeping them busy. You're like, yeah, right, I want to relax. But that is the Virgo, beautiful earth. They have to, Virgos are happy when they're busy. So Libra's masculine cardinal air, and Libra adores balance, harmony, and equal give and take. And that is a big one for them. So they're a more charming sign that would be difficult to find, because Libra's cardinal airy nature wants to begin things, and they're entertaining and they're socializing, and they always have priorities. And they are expert when it comes to people pleasing, because their Venus ruled planet specializes in manners, courtesy, and small talks. Alone time may be shunned, except I love my alone time and I'm a Venus. And because they're gifted with the ability to pacify, they may sell out their own needs or the truth to buy peace and companionship. Seeing both sides of a situation, weighing the options, and keeping their inner balance is by remaining honest. And Libras do that. Inner balance is important. Scorpio, feminine, fixed, and water. So planets in this sign are detectives. And they're excellent at strategy. And Scorpios are able to sift through every situation for clues. And they're able to analyze and determine what's really going on. I love that. And they've also been gifted at sending signals back to the environment, so they can influence the environment. Remember, they're a water sign. And so they can alter a situation by manipulating their environment with the right word or movement. And Scorpio planets are constantly searching for intimacy. They seek intense, and they may be crisis orientated. That's part of them. And they can be relentless, obsessive, as well as jealous. But remember, this is a fixed water sign, so Scorpios feel deeply and forever. So we want to give our Scorpio planets the opportunity to experience life and death situations. So Scorpios actually will go through more life and death situations than normal. Sagittarius is masculine. It's a mutable and fire sign. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter spreads its energy. So the planets tend to never feel satisfied or content. And they always wonder if there's something that they can do that's more, that's wonderful, or what's over the next mountain. Like they're always going forward. And I think that's why they have the symbol with the arrow on it. So Sagittarius planets represent our bored energy. If we get bored by our routine, because they're freedom orientated, so they don't like to get bored. And they're generous and optimistic, but they can be excessive and overindulgent. And they adore outdoor activities and foreign places and foreign people and cultures. But they learn by first having the big picture explained, and then they're happy to approach it. So they like to have things like they have to see it before they can act on it. And Sagittarius planets can be quite intuitive. They have a natural gift of prophecy, and they believe in the power of laughter. So embarrassing themselves at times to make someone laugh is quite common. Capricorn is feminine, cardinal, and earth. So Capricorn planets are ruled by Saturn, and they have the tendency to build things. So they like to create a career that's best for you. And Saturn will start up an organization and turn it into a family business. So these planets are automatically the ones that will guide us to run and create it. No matter what it is, we can figure it out. So Capricorn is that structural place. They'll set down the rules, they'll exercise caution and discipline, and then they'll live by them. So they're good authority figures. They're also the sign of whether our sense of success and tradition is strong. So they represent the old-fashioned way, and also paying respect to our elders and family. They want a return for their time. So they do believe in the give and receive what they invest in. And they also don't mind proving how valuable things are. So they do like higher quality things. Earth sign, right? Treasures. Aquarius is masculine, fixed air. So Aquarian planets represent unexpected things because they are fixed with the unpredictable. So air signs get a lot of unpredictability. And this sign's ruler is Uranus, which gives us credit for the energy it facilitates with invention and personal conquest, or humanitarian, I guess. But they want to amaze the masses. And they are meant to have an audience. So they create their own rules. They will fight if they have to. They're very strong, and they will break tradition. So they're the tradition breakers. They adore change, and they often want others to perceive them as unstable or unreliable, or, you know, like that naughty side, I guess. But when the Aquarius energy activates, the commitment it has is connected to intellectual ideals, as well as the sign of what they should possess. So it does represent attainment. Pisces is feminine, mutable, and water. And mutable Pisces can't separate itself emotionally from whatever's going on. And this source is something that is considered their power of compassion. It's also the source of desire to escape reality. So they are a natural empath, and they can get to the point where they can't get out of what they bring in. So they are a sign that is able to feel everything, and whether it's good or bad, hopefully better and good, they do need time alone, especially to unload themselves and shed off what they received from people and crowds. And it's exhausting to them, other people's energy, because they just like soak it in like a sponge. So this is where they have a tendency to take on stray people or animals, and they'll watch it and help it. And it's because they are searching for where that healing, that power of victimization. So they are natural healers of people who have been victimized, and they are able to make change, good change, because of it. So they can see that, they can find the way out of it. But Pisces planets are the ones that see the best in people or situations. And they get disappointed when reality sets in, because their way is usually more romantic than the rest of the others. So they get let down by people, right? They sponge it in, they feel it, and it's like, why don't people feel the way I do? Or I do this, why aren't they doing that? So they are sensitives. Now we're going to go into the third building block of reading the charts. I'm just going to adjust my seat there. Okay, so these are the houses, and we talked about the houses, and I don't want to get into all 12 houses right now, but remember that houses are represented by the 12 pie-shaped wedges in the chart, and they're like rooms in a house. Each one reflects the circumstances we create and encounter in specific areas of life. So one room, the 6th house, relates to our daily routine and work, while the 11th house relates to groups that we may be afflicted with, where the sign Aries or Taurus, for example, on the cusp of each house, tells us something about the nature of the room behind the door. So the lines on the pie represent the doorway. So you can look at all of your lines on your chart, and if you have a whole bunch on the line, that's a doorway of power. Okay. So wherever your signs show up, and sometimes they're outside of the chart, you just got to look at where the planets are. Remember, it was like a drawing over the earth. So it's not going to be like all shoved in there pretty like a vision board. Sometimes our sign chart, you'll see charts that look confusing, and it's like, oh my God. But they represent the doorways, and so they tell us what the nature of the room behind the door is. So say someone with a Leo is in their 6th house, the cusp will create different routines and work habits than a person with a Capricorn on the cusp. So the sign influences the type of behavior that will exhibit when those life circumstances turn up. And since the time of day you were born determines the sign of each of the houses, we can accurately create the result of more accurate information from our chart. So those houses give us the information that we want. That's right. Okay, so your son was born on the 21st of June, so he's on a cusp. So there is the doorway, right? Now you want to take a look at the signs that are on that cusp that are influencing him. And of course, the degree, and we're not even going to get into degrees yet. So go back to the houses. I know we went through that last class, and I'm not going to go through all 12 of them. what I do want to go into is the fourth aspect of the chart. So just put number 3, houses. So that was the third building block. And we went through all of that. So for example, yeah, I can't even think about it. So the first house, what is the first house represents? Our front door. Okay. So out of the 12 houses, your first house is your front door. Think of it as the front door to your house. And the sign on it is known as the rising sign or the ascendant, which describes the way you move, the way you dress, and the overall condition of your body. And it relates to the first impression you make on people. So your first house is you. Well, it all is, but you know what I mean. What I just said. Where the second house is how we handle the possessions we hold dear. Okay, so we went over that last class, and you can always find more and more information, but let's move on to the fourth building block of reading your planet or reading your chart. So the aspects and transits are the fourth building block. So when you take a look at the chart, you'll see that planets form angles to one another as they move through the heavens. And the two planets, if two planets are 90 degrees apart, they form a square. And if they are 180 degrees apart, they're in opposition. So planets in aspect have 24-hour communication going on. And the particular angle that separates any two planets describe the nature of their conversation. Okay? And that is the conversation between the planets that they join or they're letting go of. So let's go into the conjunction. So the conjunction is at 0 to 8 degrees. And that is known as the conjunction. And the conjunction is when we hear that two things are operating together. So two things are operating in conjunction, they're operating together. And this holds true with planets as well as two or more planets conjoined. They represent a team. So the Venus and the moon work well together because they're both feminine and receptive. But the sun and Mars are both pretty feisty by nature and may cause conflict, where planets in conjunction are usually sharing a house in your chart. So you'll see some charts will have more than one planet in it, right? And then you want to look at all of the degrees. So on your chart, you'll see a little box that shows all of the degrees. Now, the sextile is 60 degrees. And the sextile links the planets to compatible elements. So planets in sextile are either in fire and water signs. Or no. Okay, planets that are sextile are either fire and air signs or earth and water signs. So these pairs of elements are getting along well. And the sextile degrees, 60 degrees, encourages an active exchange between the two planets involved. So these two parts of you are what will be eager to work together. Okay. So sextile, I always think 60, sex, working together. And then you look at those planets. Now the square is the 90 degrees. So the 90 degrees, the square, rules planets and puts planets at cross purposes. So friction develops between them, and one will constantly challenge the other. And then you can see squares operating in someone who's fidgety or constantly restless. And although they're uncomfortable and even aggravating at times, the square points to a place where tremendous growth is possible. So that's why they're active. Like, where's the growth? Step into it. That's where the possibility is. Get the action in that. So put yourself in that box. The trine is 120 degrees. And the trine is the triangle. And trines are usually formed between planets of the same element. So they understand each other. They show each other, I guess, an ease. There's an ease of communication. And they're traditionally thought of favorable connection. But there is a downside to trines, because planets in this relationship that are so comfortable that they can often get lazy and spoiled. So sometimes they'll get so comfy, they're boring. And planets and trines show us the urges or the needs that automatically support each other. So the catch is, you've got to get them operating. So this represents favorable as well as not getting boring, like always producing, right? So then we have the 150 degrees, which is known as the quincunx. Quincunx. I mean, how would you say that? Okay, so 150 degree is the best way to say it for me. So this aspect joins two signs that don't share qualities. So they could share, they don't share a quality, they don't share an element or a gender, which makes it difficult for them to communicate with each other. It's frustrating. And so for that reason, this aspect has always been considered to require an adjustment in the way the two planets are used. So you have to honor both planets. And the planets in 150 degrees often feel pushed, forced, or obligated to perform. Okay. And they usually seem to correspond to health issues. So 150 degrees will show corresponding health issues. And that's a big one. Then we have the opposition. And the opposition was the 180 degree. And when two planets are opposed, they work against each other. So for example, if you may want something, and if you have two opposing planets, you may struggle with two very different approaches to get what you want. So if Mars and Neptune are opposing, you may receive a struggle between getting a job done quick and easy, or daydreaming about all of the possibilities of doing it. And if it is the two that are standing across from each other, they both have their arms folded. They're just looking at each other, waiting for the move. And that represents the debate. So they're like playing tennis, right? It's like which one's going to like win. And this is where we can break out of the standoff. We have to, by becoming aware of each of these, right? And of compromising. So the 180 degrees usually will show what you need to compromise with. And it will also show the hard aspects of the planets as well as our odds. So what are the odds of the things around that? Now I want to go into, I have to get into a couple more things. So I'm not stopping yet. And maybe I'll just start talking a lot faster. So the other thing that's important is transits in the chart. So transits, the buses. So while your horoscope chart reflects the exact position of planets at the time of your birth, the planets, as you know, move on. And they are said to be transitioning or transiting. So we interpret a transit as a planet in its today position, making it an aspect of the planet in our natal chart. So these planets, transit planets, represent incoming influences and the needs that your natal planets will be asked to handle. So these are destined things you are asked to handle. And the nature of these planets described a type of situations that will arise. And the nature of your natal planet tells which piece of you're working on at the moment. So when a planet transits through a house or an aspect of a planet in your chart, you have the opportunity for personal growth and change. Every transit you experience adds knowledge to your personality. Okay, so the sun transit. A sun transit points to the place in your chart where you'll want special attention, where that pat on the back, okay, and your appreciation. And here's where you want to shine. So these are often times of public, notice. It's like acclamation, right? Or this is where you're recognized or you're congratulated or people are proud of what you've done. So you're hearing that, right? And it also represents our birthday, the day when we're all secretly sure we should have been treated like royalty. So sun transit is our birthday and our feeling of royalty, right? The moon transit. So when the moon touches one of the other planets in our chart, we react from an emotional point of view. So what planet is by your moon in your chart? And the moon transit often corresponds to highs and lows that we may feel. And it may only last a day or two. Our instincts are on high when the moon transit is there. So during a moon transit, we're on high. And we're also able to sense what's going on around us. So we can figure out what it is that we consciously know. Okay. The Mercury transit creates activity in whatever area of life it wants to visit. So where is your Mercury transit? And the subject is communication of all kinds. So conversation, letter, our errands, any type of communication. And because Mercury's love of duality of events will often occur in twos. So when Mercury is in retrograde or in transit, 2, right? Twos happen. And it's because of the love of duality, so things happen in twos, that the trickster is around. So Mercury transit represents the trickster, and we have to try to have some fun with it. So there's a position of having fun, but also doing what we need to do. The Venus transit is when we is when the universe gives us a small token of warmth, or we get affection, or we feel like we get a break, a well-deserved break. And it's often social, or going on a trip, or family or friends, right? Like things that we are doing more with the things that we love and the people that we love. So it's interested in good food. It's interested in your family and your cushy conditions that make things work. So a Venus transit shows a time when others will give us gifts. Okay, the things we are meant to receive from other people in our life. And since Venus rules money, this transit can also show when we'll receive financial rewards. So what is in where's your Venus? What's around your Venus? Because there's your financial rewards. And then you'll know, okay, I can tap into that, right? Maybe it's emotional healing. Like, you don't know, check out your chart now. Mars transit is a house that can indicate high energy. And so your strongest and your restless energy, even if it's cranky and energy, or, that accident prone energy I talked about earlier, remember that was Mars. So when Mars happens along, it's best to work or exercise hard and to consider this energy. So make yourself work hard. You are not too tired, and you are too tired to be mad, right? So the ideal times is to initiate projects that require a hard push of energy to begin. Jupiter transit is when we're in the mood to travel. Like, I'm done. I need a trip. I just want to drive, go out in nature. That is big for me. I like to drive in nature. So mood to travel, take a class, as well as learning something new about the concerns of any house or planet. So your ponder, or when you question your life and what you should grow into under a Jupiter transit, you can take a look. You can take a look and see what chances you should take. It lets you know where you're luckiest, right? Where your attraction to finances and stability and career is. So the Jupiter transit provides opportunities that we want to take advantage of. What opportunities were you destined to receive? Okay. Saturn transit is when we see things as they truly are. So they're usually, the way we perceive, the things that we receive rewards from, by the way we see, but it represents our tests and how we pass them in life. So yeah, we get, how many of you have experienced something where you're like, this is to be a test? It probably is Saturn's test. So it is our test, is one that tests us, and we'll always feel tested. But if we fail and it's difficult, that energy is going to firm us up, and the next test will come. And that's Saturn's mission. Saturn's mission is to get us to tap into our own willpower and self-discipline to stop something or to do something. So it is meant for, Saturn's energy is actually meant to create good times and begin new ventures. Uranus transit is the last thing in the world you'll ever expect to happen. And it is what happens. So this is the planet of last minute plan changes, reversals, or shock effects. It represents all of those things that happen, but what they're the things that won't make us stuck for long. So they're things that come up, we deal with them, they move on. They are actually meant to bring us temporary people into our life and our space. And sometimes the purpose of that is to just jolt us out of our present circumstances by appearing to provide exactly what it is that we need or to show us what we're missing. And so that's done when these people disappear from our life. So they're the ones that come in and they're fabulous and great, and then they move on. They're the temporary people in our life. Whether we learned good or bad, we usually learn something from them. But they do usually represent the people that come in and then they're erased out of your life. It's like they were just temporary. And Pluto transit is often associated with our obsessions. Okay, so what are you obsessed with? It's also what we are fighting to regenerate or rejuvenate. And it represents our inevitable change. So whatever has gone past to the point of no return, whatever is broken beyond repair will pass from our life. And that is through the Pluto transit. So Pluto is pretty deep. And as with the Saturn transit, it is a time that is not known to be wonderful, but when the circumstances peel away everything from us and we're forced to see ourselves as we truly are, we do learn how strong we are. So Pluto represents our power struggles, and it also represents the end result of a positive Pluto transit. So the secret is to let go, accept our losses and changes, and then to try to move forward for our future. So planning for the future. Now, I know we're at 9, but I have to do this. I have to do retrograde because that's kind of important. You always hear retrograde. So a couple more minutes, okay? And I will have some more exercises for you. So retrograde planets. So whenever you see retrograde, it literally means backwards. So although none of the planets ever really throw their energies in reverse and move backwards, all of them, except for the sun and the moon, appear to do it periodically, and especially from our perspective on Earth. So what's happening is that we're moving either faster or slower than the other planet that's in retrograde. And since we have to look over our shoulder to see it, we refer it to retrograde. So let's do Mercury retrograde, because that's quite common. That's one, it's part of the cycle. So Mercury retrograde is a common breakdown, okay? It's a communication breakdown. And the way retrograde planets seem to affect our affairs varies from planet to planet. But in Mercury's case, it means often looking back at Mercury-ruled things. So again, the Mercury topics, right? So communication, contracts, right? So we want to keep in mind that Mercury correlates with Hermes, right? The original trickster. And so we'll understand how cleverly disguised some of these things are, the errors can be. So errors happen during Mercury retrograde. So that's when communication becomes confused, things are delayed, letters are lost, or they're sent somewhere else instead, or they end up under the car seat for 3 weeks, or we sign a contract or agreement and find out later that we didn't have all of the correct information and what was signed was misleading in some way. We try repeatedly to reach someone on the telephone but can never catch them, or our communication devices themselves break down, electrical things get affected, information in some way is garbled. So it's all of these things that have to do with communication, and we feel as if our timing is off because of it, right? So our short trips often become more difficult, or we leave the direction at home or write them down incorrectly, right? So there's always some kind of miscalculation or misrepresentation or mistake. We leave the direction and it's changing, right? It's uncontrollable, it's beyond our control, and we completely forget about it. So we get influenced by this, and there's a constructive use for the Mercury retrograde. And that's one thing, is everyone's like, oh, it's so bad, but it actually isn't, because Mercury spends its time moving this retrograde, this backward, and this direct energy forward to create a beautiful amount of time that we spend awake and asleep. And it's about a third of our lives that the Mercury power is in play. So when the Mercury retrograde is in play, this is a period that seems to be a time where it's trying to actually stabilize things that have happened over the past 3 months. So remember I said how the sun influences our true self? Well, the Mercury retrograde represents the circumstances that have to do with the 3 months ago. And then it's all assimilating into our experience as it descends. And so whenever a Mercury retrograde comes up, a good rule of thumb is to try to confine activities to those that have reattached to the beginning of the word. So like reschedule, repair, return, rewrite, right? Restore, replace, renovate. So RE words are actually words of power during the retrograde. So Mercury retrograde has to do with communication breakdowns. And that's why you don't want to sign contracts. You don't want to buy a house. You don't want to do those things. So retrogrades of the other planets, with Venus retrograde every 18 months. Okay, Venus retrograde every 18 months for 6 weeks have to do with relationship and money matters that are usually delayed or muddled. And with Mars retrograde for 11 weeks, and then direct for 22 months, like a whole year is when Mars is in retrograde. is often rooted in confusion and ends up in a cross purpose of our original intentions. So typically under a Mars retrograde, the aggressor or initiator of a battle is defeated. So remember, there's something to fight. What does your warrior self want to take care of? And Jupiter retrograde for 4 months, and it's direct for 9 months. So 4-month cycles is when Jupiter is in retrograde, and it's usually forward moving for 9 months. And Saturn retrograde is about the same amount of time, so 4 months and 22 months. So each of the outer planets, okay, the outer planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They stay retrograde for 6 to 7 months. So death, rebirth cycle, 6 to 7 months. And that's every single year. So in general, remember that the actions that are ruled by a particular planet quite often need to be repeated or done over when the planet is in retrograde. So just make sure that what you're planning is something that you don't mind doing twice if you're doing it when those planets are in retrograde. There's also the moon of the void. Let me see where I want to end here. Void, of course, void, of course, because next class is our last one. So I want to make sure I'm not left. We did the moon's influence on it. Okay, so yeah, I just have one more thing to do. So let's go into moon, void, of course. So in magic, even though this isn't a magic class, when something is moon, or when the moon is void of course, we don't do any magic. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Okay. So the moon void of course. The moon orbits Earth every 28 days. And moving through each of the signs is every 2 days. Okay. And as she passes through the 30 degrees of each sign, she visits with the planets in order by forming the angles and the aspects within them. And because she moves 1 degree in just 2 and 2.5 hours, so every 2 hours, a degree changes, her influence on each planet only lasts a few hours. So she approaches this degree of the sign she's passing through, and she eventually forms what will later be her final aspect to another planet before leaving the sign. So from this point until she actually enters a new sign, so from one sign to the next sign, she is referred as being void of course. So the moon symbolizes the emotional tone of the day, carrying the feelings of the sign that she's wearing. And that is at the present. Remember, it's moment. And she rules our instincts. And after she has contacted each of the planets, she symbolically rests before changing her costume. So her instincts are temporarily on hold. So it's during this time that many people feel fuzzy, vague, scattered, drained. I get like totally drained, like gravitational pull. Okay. And it's during that time where plans and decisions don't pan out. So it gives us that feeling of procrastination too. And without the instinctual knowledge, the moon provides us an energy as she touches each planet. And usually this energy tends to be unrealistic, or it feels unrealistic to us, which is one reason why we like to do the moon magic, because unrealistic things we send out there. So the traditional definition of void of course is that nothing will come of this. That's what it means. Nothing will come of this. So you don't ever want to do magic when the moon is in void of course. And it seems to be true. Actions initiated under the void of course of the moon is wasted. And it's incorrect. And it usually represents the hidden or the missing energy of the manifestation. So don't do things on the void of course. It is the moon's reflection and her changing time. And that is a time to meditate. Void of course, meditate, relax, like sleep, anything that doesn't, where you're not trying to activate power. So it is a time of rest. So with that, I'm going to pull us a card and end this. Now, let me just see before we go. What did we do? So we did all of that, exercise 3. Did you get an exercise with midheaven and their functions, the angles and their functions? I'll have to check and see where I left. Yeah, I did have that on there. Okay, yeah, I did. And then you saw all of the other charts that were there with the different energies. Okay, so those charts are there. Good. I'm just looking at what I gave you last time. So this week, your next exercise book, let's see where the fun is. So we went over the zodiac, which I love, and the cardinal signs, the fixed signs, and the mutable signs. And just before we go with that, so you do have some exercises coming up. We're on page 32 of my 100-page workbook. So we're getting there. Okay, one thing I want to share before we go. So we were talking about the cardinal signs, and this is something you don't have to write down. It's on this and it'll be on your homework. Okay. But cardinal signs, Aries represents I am. Cancer is I feel. Libra is I balance. And Capricorn is I use. Okay. For the fixed signs, Leo is I will. Scorpio is I generate. Aquarius is I know. Taurus is I have. Sagittarius, so now we're going to the mutable signs. So Sagittarius, I comprehend. Pisces, I balance. Gemini, I think. Virgo, I perfect. And then there's the elementals, right? So fire was Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Water is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Air is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And earth is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Just knowing your elements can show you the magic that you're also meant to be practicing. Right? Earth magic is healing and wealth and tangible things. Air magic is intellect and future, right? And moving forward and pushing it through. Water is emotions and mutation, changing things and spirit. And fire is our passion, right? And you can see how those energies are generated in that. So I'm going to let you go, but before we do, let's pull a card tonight on your astrological influences. So the next class we do, I'm going to talk about a little more on reading the chart. So until we meet again, you are going to receive a timetable that represents the what times the planets are in each day, because we can do our charts every day. And what happens is where we get the information is through, well, it's actually in a book or a system, and it's called the ephemeris. So I'm going to find out where I can get you. I'm going to get you a copy of it somehow, where I can find a printout or something. But in astronomy, it's a big book you can get, and it's got like 100 years of all of the symbols. Okay. And so this ephemeris represents the astronomy and the celestial navigation. And it's a book with the tables that gives the naturally occurring astrological objects that are happening, as well as satellites in the sky. So it tells us the position and the possibility over time. And it's pretty interesting because we have each one of these planets influencing us every day. Like we look at the chart that we're born, but every day, everything we're talking about is in play. So it's pretty interesting. And usually it's it represents the year 1900 to like 2100. So it's like this huge data that's calculating the positions of the celestial objects, and we do our reports off of them. So I'll give you a little samples and see if I can find where I can get that for you. So I have for our card, true manifesting is about receiving what is of the highest good for all. I mean, that kind of works with astrology, because astrology does represent all of the influences that are there for the highest good of all. And we can tap into that. So for the C, before you go, let's see what tomorrow is. So tomorrow is full moon, and it's at 413. So to me, that is a magical number. My son was born at 413. So that's one of the universal numbers I get. Now the only thing about the timetables is you want to find one that's in our time zone, right? So that we can, a lot of times people's posts are all European, and it's like, that's not our full moon. Our full moon is happening here. So you do want accuracy of where we live. Okay. So starting tomorrow, oh no, tomorrow is still part of Scorpio. So our emotions are still going through exchanging right now. And then we go into the full moon, and that means that the moon goes from Scorpio into Sagittarius. And it's also lunar eclipse. So when the moon is in Scorpio, that means that we have to delve into our feelings as deep as possible and desire meaningful exchanges on how it is that we are forced to change the things we want in our life. So we are meant to change things in our life right now. And our root chakra is in power. So know that you might not want sex, you might want lots of sex, you might feel like you need security. So all root chakra related, right? Okay, I'm gonna let you go. I kept you over, and I'll replay this. Will be out tomorrow. Your workbooks will be probably a couple days. Tomorrow's crazy for me. So I'll get the video sent out. With that, I'll let you go, okay?
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.